exist.
What?
You.
Me saying something? Anyway, what episode are we on? 6?
6.
6. It's been a long time since we recorded.
Where's the
food? A little
food?
bit of a lag.
There's no food in this
where's
one,
no
which
food?
I'm already upset
I'm out.
Just coffee?
Just coffee.
All right.
Today's topic, recovery. I'd like to think of it as pretty much the forgotten pillar in most people's training programs, because it's the part that you don't do much in, and people are always in the go, go, go mentality when you're an athlete, and
It's the part where you actually make progress.
yep, that's the part where you actually get the gains that you're looking
Gains.
for. Gains. So yeah,
I like to mention it's a beautiful day out as well. No one can see that.
Which is why we're doing it inside.
What?
No, it is. Not like yesterday.
No.
should have taken it outside.
I was just
Next
Taking
week,
in the
feeling the
vibes.
vibes, the good vibes.
next week's podcast on the turf.
All right. Anyway.
Sounds hot.
Rethinking it.
All right.
All
So
right,
recovery.
So yeah, it's the part that I think a lot of people don't know a lot about. They don't want to do the research about or the reading about in their spare time, and it's the part they don't do. So it's oftentimes the missing piece of the puzzle as to why people aren't getting the results that they want to get.
I think some of the reasons why people aren't doing it is either A, they don't enjoy it, it's boring to them, or B, they just don't know enough about it. The whole recovery realm is, aside from physical therapy, is kind of fairly new. Foam rolling, and 20 years ago, you didn't really have stuff like that. It was more in the therapy realm and not used outside of there, like in people's homes or in athletic settings.
I also think when people do know about it or know they're supposed to do it, it's the first thing that they will cut out for time's sake.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't need to do this. I got to go to work. I don't have time to foam roll
When
for 10
actually they
minutes.
should cut down a little bit more in the training,
Right.
and
Put
keep
in
the
the recovery.
Absolutely.
I think that's a hard sell on people. So people feel like they need to be like actively.
Yep.
Again, we can get into active recovery and everything, but I think people feel like, I need to be working harder. It's the only way I'm going to get better. So I think changing the mindset of people to understand, no, this is equally as important, if not more important, than the training you put in is proper recovery. And I think the idea of like this proper recovery is something maybe we can talk about a little bit, like what entails from our findings and our working with athletes and research that we've done and research that we've read extensively, like the key elements, I think, maybe of a proper recovery.
I think that military and 1960s gym coach mentality of drive, it'll get you to the point of breaking, and then it's no longer trying to recover from training. Now you are actually, trying to deal with an injury.
Yeah, you're recovering from something totally different at that point.
So why not take care of it along the way?
Yeah, for something that I didn't even understand is recovery happens far after you're done training, and it almost starts far before you start training for that day. Like recovery is like what you're doing when you're not training.
Yeah, it's essentially all of the time in between your training. So if you're training maybe 1-2 hours a day, depending on what your sport is, it's everything that happens in between. So it's a big piece of the puzzle, I guess you could say diet falls into the realm of recovery a little bit too, which we touched on, because that's what's feeding your body to make the changes that you want it to make. A big component of it is sleep, and we talk to people about sleep all the time.
That's probably the number one recovery method is sleep. That's
when hormones reset and you're able to get those regulations. It's when muscles are able to just rebuild and build themselves up. And I think it's not given enough credit, where people are like, well, I'll sacrifice that hour of sleep so that I can go to the gym an hour earlier and get that done, as opposed to saying like, maybe I need 8 hours tonight. You got to listen to your body and realize like when it's telling you like enough is enough, like it probably is enough.
Yeah, and especially in an activity that involves a heavy cognitive component, sleep is even more important. That's when your brain replenishes all your neurotransmitters. When memories are formed, and your analytical skills are going to be extremely impaired, with lack of sleep. So that's probably, as we said, the number one recovery tool. and then I think everything else kind of falls in line
Falls out after that.
under that.
If your sleep
Absolutely.
quality is poor or you're just simply not getting enough, I think you're always going to feel run down. And we were talking about this morning with like doing sleep studies, sleep apnea, when people are just not sleeping well and not even realizing it because they're waking up multiple times during the night. You're never getting that long stretch where everything can just reset and you're just always feeling worn down. And you see that in your performance. Like I know when I go a week and I, have too much going on and I'm only getting maybe 5 or 6 hours instead of closer to 7, I know it and I see it in performance.
Yeah, you need to go through at least 3 to 4 sleep cycles per night to be able to be considered to have a full night's sleep. You generally want the room about 65 degrees, which is a little on the cool side for some people. That's where the body generally
Gotta be.
Works for
It's
me.
not
Oh,
60.
yeah.
It's not 60.
No sweaty messes,
and
right?
and as dark as possible.
Last
you know?
night was like
Make it a back
68,
cave.
and I was like up multiple
Yeah.
times.
Make it a back cave.
It's
Make
a
it as dark
struggle
as you
in my
can.
house.
No glass of wine's gonna help that either.
No, that'll raise your body temp
You're
real
up.
quick.
But I think also like you were talking about, as regimented as endurance sports athletes are, I think being able to say, to know that there might be this variable, well, I need more recovery time this day. Like being as regimented as you are, well, I always do this run, I'm doing this run, I need to get this much time in. I think you need to regiment the recovery time in there
Right.
as well. If it means having to change what you had planned for that day based on how you're feeling, I think that's important to do that and not push it off and say, no, I need to get this extra run in or whatever. I think it should trump.
Yeah, it needs to be
Right.
as important as other
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah, I think you could almost, as with training, periodize recovery too. So on days that you have, a lighter training day, you would actually want to do most of your recovery, not only from a time allotment standpoint, but the muscle tension that you're creating is a lot less on that day. To go from training heavy and try to foam roll or
Right.
stretch right after, it's going to be very hard because those muscles are still
Right,
going to
and
be
it's
very,
hard to shift
very
from
tight.
that sympathetic input and
Exactly.
neural drive to more of that parasympathetic input, which is where you're going to get the recovery and the relaxation.
Not only that, your ventilation is elevated, and a big part of getting permanent changes, especially with something like stretching, is being able to breathe through the stretch and have that deep diaphragmatic breathing. If you're still elevated from a run that you did an hour before, you're just not going to get as much out of the session.
There's a lot of talk with active recovery and this idea of not passively kind of just there's things that you could do to help your body expedite repair and distribution and removal of waste and all that sort of thing. That's something we want to talk
Yeah.
about maybe a little bit.
I mean, in terms of like rest day being built into people's workout schedules and calendars, like I think that's why people overlook recovery, because they think like, what am I going to do, just sit around all day? Like that's not what I want to do. Recovery or a rest day can essentially be going for a walk or going for a very, very, very slow paced jog if you're a runner. It could be something as simple as cross-training by swimming and doing an easy swim or just floating in a pool. There's been a lot of research about like if you float in 10 feet of water and the amount of pressure on your body and like just laying there, what that can do for your parasympathetic system. It's just...
That's where those deprivation tanks
come into play.
Yeah, those are becoming very popular too.
The sound blocking, like pitch
Yeah, you're
black,
in.
yeah.
I think they make it. I forget what the parts per million. I think it's
Yeah.
salt water.
Yep, it
Yeah.
is.
Basically,
It is.
it's
Probably like
very,
with tap
very
water.
viscous.
It's about probably the same.
Yeah,
Same parts
Yeah.
per
the
million. I
local
think.
tap water in your bathtub.
Yeah. I wonder. It's so buoyant.
But also, I think foam rolling falls into that category too of active recovery.
Absolutely, because you are moving around, and they're finding now that probably the best sequence is to foam roll. Each muscle group that you're looking to, recover that day, and then do some static stretching right after. It kind of tends to make the stretching stick a little bit longer, rather than just going right into it, because you do get some, elongation of the tissues, some blood flow, get a little bit of increased temperature, which is only going to make it, become more elastic and keep those.
Yeah, I think fascia extensibility and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
As well,
Yeah.
you can incorporate some like release techniques with that too.
Yeah, I mean that then falls into the more the therapy side or the manual therapy and technique side of like what you could be doing for recovery and biggest game changer that I've seen has been dry needling, in terms of getting athletes through those tough periods where they're not necessarily injured, but they're just feeling the wear and the tear of their training schedule. Somebody going into an Ironman or a half Ironman or a marathon where your volume is just so high that even getting that rest day in there is simply just not enough to get you to recover.
Right.
And the changes that I've seen in muscle tension and flexibility and just overall degree of soreness from a 12-hour period after a dry needling session is huge. I mean, we've all done it. Yeah.
I can personally attest to
Yeah.
how effective it is.
You see the improvements, and they're objective and they're quick. And I think that's why a lot of athletes are drawn to it once they've done it once or twice. It's like you could come in hobbling, you might leave hobbling still, but then you go to sleep and you wake up and you feel like nothing's ever happened. Yeah.
I think a distinction that a lot of people need to make too is you have to be able to separate being hurt from being injured.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people, training hurts.
Yeah.
You know, it's damage, it's stress, it hurts. But are you truly hurt to the point where you cannot function? I would put the distinction between hurt and injured is where, you know, activities of daily living are starting to be impacted.
Yes.
You know, you can't bend over to tie your shoes. You can't do normal things. Then you might be on the side of being injured.
Can't put your shirt on.
Exactly.
Is it you can't get your arm up to put your shirt on, or is it hurts to put my arm up because I did overhead presses?
I was going to say,
yesterday?
sometimes when I train with Brian, it hurts to sit down. But that's from training, not from being
Exactly.
Yeah, if it's an insidious onset of your symptoms, or
yeah,
hey,
what was it correlated?
I was running and my knee, I stepped off the curb and now my knee hurts and it's been hurting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
what was the
of it.
mechanism of injury?
Yeah.
Is
I
it
think
directly correlated with I ran 12 miles and now my legs hurt, or is it like I stepped off the curb the wrong way and then I couldn't walk because I rolled my ankle, and that, you know?
And I think not to make everyone hyperreactive or hypersensitive, but I think the quicker you can have someone take a look at what you think you have going on, the quicker you can get back to doing your activity and have peace of mind knowing that, hey, I addressed this, it's been addressed, you know, I can move on now, kind of thing.
I think a big mistake that people make too with training in general is everyone tries to block their training into a 7-day period, but our bodies don't work that way. You know, if you need to go on a 10 or even 11-day cycle, then do that. You know, everyone tries to say, I need to get this many miles or this many training sessions in 7 days, no matter what. Well, if you try to do that, you know, and your body's not prepared for it, and you tend to squeeze out those recovery modalities, that's where you end up having problems. Spread it out over 10 days if you need to. Don't be afraid to try and mess around, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10-day blocks.
A lot of the running research out there is recommending like your training programs being anywhere from 9 to 13 days in terms of like your week. That it's not a 7-day thing, because you're never going to be able to space out your recovery and your workouts in the right way to see the benefits that you
Our
want.
bodies don't necessarily
7 days
conform to
isn't
a
enough.
calendar.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't necessarily conform to a calendar.
Yeah, again, it's just an arbitrary
Exactly.
number, which really, like you said, I think the whole gist of what we're trying to talk about is you really need to have that self-awareness, you know, yourself different than anyone else. Some people might need less recovery, whatever it might be, but I think you need to address your recovery period along with how you're addressing your training schedule as well. So if you're starting to increase volume and that sort of thing, your recovery needs to be, you know, increasing as well. You know.
Yeah, some of the newer research is showing that they almost want a 1-to-1 ratio. You know, if you're spending, you know, 10 hours a week training, I mean, 10 hours a week might be a little, you know, excessive time-wise for some people to devote to recovery, but I would say at least 5 hours in combination.
At least 10
dry
recovery
needling,
sessions of what you're
foam
doing.
rolling, you know, massage, stretching, you know, a combination of things.
The important thing to remember is that it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, it's going to be determined by your age, your diet, like whatever's going on. And research is great, and you know, having things out there where we studied 300 people and this is how they responded to a foam rolling session and like implementing that. That's great, but more and more I'm seeing that all research is based off of one person. It's like I could have a research study that proved to be effective for 99% of people, but if it's not effective for you, it's not effective for you. Maybe you need a different frequency or volume or different method of how you're doing it.
Absolutely. You're always going to have outliers, and you know, like we talked about before, it needs to be a combination of anecdotal evidence and research-based evidence.
I think that's very important. So I think a lot of recovery, while there is research supporting parts of it, I think some of it anecdotally is
They don't really know why it works.
No,
Yep.
and
But just that it does.
and that's
Like the tape. We were just talking about taping.
Yes.
2 minutes before we went on, like
Yeah.
doing rock tape or kinesio tape, and it's like there's research all over the board as to why that works. And you could argue for any one of them, but you know what? It does work. Like I feel better when I use it. Like you
I
significantly
make you do it every
felt
time you
felt
need
better
it.
when you use it, and sometimes that's really what matters. Like yes, the research is important, but how you feel and like what your performance is what matters at the end of the day when you're an athlete.
It's
You
just
don't
tinkering.
care what the research says.
You have to tinker.
Yeah.
Like with everything you do, you have to find what works for you personally.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go by what
It's
Bill
just like
does.
with
I
your
can't do
training.
what Bill does.
I think another good point that we talked about briefly a little bit was also the nutritional aspect of things. If calorie wise, if you're not consuming enough,
Right.
Or if you're eating pro versus anti-inflammatory
Right.
foods.
And you're in this constant state of inflammation. Inflammation leads to stress. Stress leads to all of these other things that lead to you not being able to recover. So it's a multifaceted approach in order to get everything right.
and I think not that you can cheat away in other sports, but I think sports where the volume of work you're doing is not as excessive as this. I think it's easier to kind of sneak around it, but I think especially in the endurance sports world, and this goes for multi-sport attack to everyone, I think the amount of cognitive focus that's included, that's also stress on your body, along with just the physical stress of performing these activities for an extended period of time, I think that volume adds up to wear on you much more. And I think if you're not properly recovering, maybe you recover 50% of what you should be doing. Okay, so then you start another workout, and then you're never catching up fully. You're always playing
I would agree with that.
this catch, behind the eight ball kind of situation, and it's just that just over time leads itself to injury, really.
Absolutely. You look at a lot of power and strength sports because there's so many redundancies built into the body. You have people that can train and compete at a very high level for years with massive injuries because they have other body parts that can kind of pick up the slack. How many football players have asymptomatic back injuries? Herniations and everything, and they're still able to do it because it's for short bursts. You don't see that in endurance athletes because of all the pounding, weekly and
you can't hide it for tens of thousands of steps.
Exactly.
Tens of thousands of
Exactly.
strokes. Like your brain won't be able to handle it. It'll become numbing, and that's all you'll be able to focus on.
And I think that, going back to what I was talking about, where this idea that if you don't address things right off the bat, I think again lead to injury, or if maybe not an injury, maybe now compensatory motions start to occur. So now your gait's thrown off. So now you're running, and okay, I used to be okay at 15 miles. Now at 18 miles, I'm like dying now, or I feel like I don't have as much hop in my step anymore, or I'm starting to get tired early, quicker. And you start to look at people's gait, like, well, look, before you started to have this kind of whatever soreness or whatever you were having, your gait looked like this, and now all of a sudden it looks like this, and people don't even realize it. Like we were saying, the body is an excellent compensator. So now you start having other problems. I think
what might have started as a little ache somewhere could cause a big injury somewhere else.
Exactly.
Because of a compensatory
Yeah,
pattern.
you don't even realize it's happening.
I think people need to think of their bodies the way they think of like their teeth or their car. Like you go and get your teeth checked twice a year because you don't want to have that problem come up and then have to fix it. And you go and get your oil changed and your car checked, however many times a year because you don't want it to break down on the side of the road. But people don't think that way with just their biomechanics and their muscles and ligaments, and like they're just like, oh, I'm fine, I don't feel anything, I must be good. And that's generally not true. I've very rarely seen anybody where I haven't been able to say there's something that we can tweak here to prevent something from happening.
Or they try to push through
Yep.
it. Or that a big topic too is just masking it with something like an over-the-counter,
Yep.
Pain medication,
Yeah.
ibuprofen.
Yeah, if you're
or-
taking ibuprofen regularly or something,
There's something wrong.
There's a problem
Yeah.
that you need to have
Like you
addressed.
can't function without it.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening.
That's a recipe for disaster.
And your-
that
Yeah,
will
exactly.
eventually
Your
catch
liver
up
and
with
your
you.
stomach will love you for getting it taken care of.
Yeah, I think definitely, again, not plugging ourselves or anyone, but I think much like you're talking about, like going to the dentist, going to the mechanic, whatever, the idea that you think you can handle all this yourself, I think is you're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I think going to a specialist, professional who has a key eye for biomechanics and for physiology and metabolic pathways, and the idea of fascial components playing into everything. I think that should be as important as it is going to your coach to get your plan for how you're going to train for your next race,
or bringing your bike to the shop,
or anything.
whatever
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. If you're, just like you bring your bike to the shop, you should be bringing yourself to get checked regularly. Honestly, I mean, I go for an annual physical because I might feel okay, but there's a lot of stuff that, God forbid, something's wrong. I can catch it in blood work beforehand, and maybe that's the difference between being okay and being not. And I think the same thing goes for athletes. I mean, if you're not getting your body checked regularly, I mean, first of all, you're setting yourself up for problems down the line, which will keep you from performing your sport, which is even worse.
Yeah.
But not to mention, you're leaving stuff on the table. Then, it's biomechanically, you're probably not functioning as optimally as you can be.
Exactly.
And I think that proper recovery and being assessed, make sure, okay, I have that component out of my mind. I know I'm okay.
Yeah.
Is
I'm good for 6 months. I just got
inherently worth a lot to you from a mental standpoint too. Having that confidence. Okay, I know okay, that piece is done. It's handled. Just like at this race, I was talking to someone about nutritional end of things, and he's trained to do marathons, and that piece, he's like, well, I'm kind of doing X, Y, Z. I'm like, I couldn't believe it, and I'm like, this is such
so
an
many
easy
people
thing for us to address, and it'll make dramatic improvements for your performance.
Or
I mean,
at the same race, the number of people that had never seen the Normatec recovery boots. Now they're not in everybody's living room, but they're pretty big in the fitness world right now. And the fact that they sat in them for 10 minutes and they were like, "This feels amazing," and I was like, "Well, you've been missing out on this. You could be doing this all the time after hard workouts."
For anyone that doubts, the recovery methods, and going back to what you were saying, being more proactive with your recovery and care. If you look at sports performance over the last 4 decades and the improvements we've made across the board in all sports, it tracks with our knowledge increase in physical therapy, in physiology, in nutrition, in strength and conditioning. So why not take advantage of all that? Because it's there for people to use.
And again, I don't want to go too much off topic, but I think I don't understand why in endurance sports it just hasn't we have all this knowledge base. We're trying to get people need to take advantage of that. I mean, you'll set yourself so far apart of your peers and your competitors. It's ridiculous how much of an improvement you can make just by addressing some key issues that I just don't understand why it hasn't. People talk about it and all this stuff, but no one's addressing it in a professional manner.
I think it goes back to the kind of the joke I made earlier, the 1960s gym coach. I think this is the way we've always done it, and this is how we're going to continue to do it.
It's a sport where you can be pretty much individual, these sports, and you don't have a coach, you don't have teammates, and you don't have a bunch of support staff around you all the time. So it's a thing that most people get into on their own, so they just go at it on their own. And then sometimes they'll bring in a coach to help them out, or they'll go see a PT or a chiropractor or somebody when they really need to because they can't walk anymore, and then they just go back at it alone. And
it drives me crazy, and I think, again, not plugging ourselves, but I think having a place like this where we're addressing all these things that for some reason don't exist in this group of athletes who need it, I think, more than probably most other sports, honestly.
Absolutely.
In other sports you can make incremental improvements probably with this kind of stuff, especially at the professional level. But here, with endurance sports, because it's over such a long period of time, I mean, you can make dramatic improvements. It's like, driving 5 miles an hour faster over the course of 300 miles. That adds up quickly. And first he's doing sprints, I drove a mile 5 miles an hour. You know what I mean? All that adds up, and I just don't.
I know all about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian's got a long ride. He knows how it goes.
How about 25 miles an hour faster?
I'll stop my
Over
rant.
80
Brian will
miles.
take
Yeah.
any
Just-
speed increase.
Get a jet.
Brian's a helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we touched on.
You want to do cold water?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I forgot that one thing. It was the
Cold
one piece
water-
I gave you
yeah,
before we
co-
started. I
Cold
took it
water
away.
baths or contrast showers.
Yeah.
You know, I would recommend, it's another thing that's very popular right now. I would recommend starting with a contrast shower before you fully immerse yourself, only because we lose a lot of body heat,
Yeah.
you know, in water, you know, because of the direct contact with the skin. And, you know, start slow, you know, a couple minutes, you know, if you're going to do an ice bath, and slowly build up from
Yeah.
there. You know, it does help to lower systemic inflammation in the entire body. It does help you become more parasympathetic. It has positive hormonal influences, especially with growth hormone and testosterone in men. And you just feel great when you get done.
Now, how
doing
about, like, let's say these cryo chambers, right? Everybody starts talking. I've seen people posting things online, and
It's
I
all
see-
the fad now.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they have these facilities that are just, you know, cryo facility, and you know.
I think they're good, but I think it's a way for people to kind of get away from doing the traditional ice bath. I don't
Mhm.
think it's as, let's face it, it's a little uncomfortable to get into water that's 40 degrees.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you're not going to lose as much heat to the atmosphere when you're dealing with like a cryo chamber, which is air,
Yeah.
as opposed to actually being in water.
Yeah, I think and I 100% agree with that. I think, and from a research standpoint, these cryo chambers, I've read some decent amount of literature, and it doesn't. I can't see supporting evidence that it's.
I've heard anecdotally that people
Anecdotally,
feel
people
better.
Feel better. Again, like
Well,
that's
no, they
so
feel
far-
better doing the water
Yes,
as opposed to the
100%. But I'm
cryo
saying
chamber.
from like these chambers, like even from a metabolic standpoint, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think the chambers are just, they might not be as good, but they're easier. You don't have to,
Yeah.
you know, fill your bathtub with
Yeah.
ice water and like.
And they have to get the air so
yeah.
much colder.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're
Yeah, what are
using
they-
liquid nitrogen to
Yeah.
you know, make the air really cold to be able to get the same kind of benefit.
Yeah.
So
When you can just fill up your tub with
you just fill up your
Yeah,
Throw
tub.
some ice in there,
Throw
Yeah.
some ice.
hang out,
Brian does it all the time.
I do. I
Go
got,
out in the
I
lake
got
in the
TV
middle of
right in
winter.
front.
a couple brewskis in there,
No, that's not Brian.
floating
No.
around.
Just don't drink the water.
All right. Anything else you got on that?
No, I think that's about it.
Bill, anything? Zach?
Just yeah, I mean, I just wanted to real quick the nutrition piece. Like it bugs me to no end, and especially after like learning a little bit more. You care about your body. You care about I feel like they're so focused on being elite and performing, but then they eat crap,
Yeah.
and it's just you gotta really take care of yourself. And I know we keep plugging ourselves, but like this is a place where you can learn so much more about yourself than you could
Yeah, I
ever
think that's a
imagine.
good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sums it up.
Don't bring excuses though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No. And
No room for that.
we're good bullshit readers.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the overriding picture of everything we do, is including recovery, is like there's so much more potential you have in your own body
Yeah.
to
Yep.
perform better at what you're doing. And I think it's so much of it is overlooked and untapped that you could be doing the same training you're doing, but it's this whole other world over here that you don't know you can
Exists.
address.
Yeah.
And it's simple things to fix when you have the professional that knows how to
Right.
tease out what needs to be done, and you'll see dramatic improvements on the other end back in your performance without changing. Oh, I got to run, X amount faster, or I
Yep.
need to do X more miles. No, you need to this whole area here, which is like 75% of
You want to,
And then you will run
performance.
faster.
You want to do
Yes.
that,
will improve
but
it.
you
and,
need to
and,
do
Right.
this to do that.
and I
You know,
think
I kind of liken it to you look at it like a race car. They go out and they pound the crap out of the car. What do they do at the end of the race? They're changing tires. They're changing the entire engine out.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they're
All the
rebuilding it.
components, rebuilding the car completely. That's kind of how your body functions.
what's the driver doing?
Exactly.
So-
Eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah, come on.
Come on. And just
True.
remember,
Maybe.
you
Just
also,
drive
gotta,
a truck,
you also
you know?
have to think about who's analyzing the data, like who's looking at the tests and who's
Yeah.
looking at all the stuff you're getting from all the tests
I
you're
think,
doing.
yeah, and I think
And-
learning, like you're saying, I think learning to, personally, individually, you can keep track of stuff going on that's great to keep it, because we don't see our athletes possibly, some we do every single day,
Yeah.
but a lot of them we don't. And I think that the more data they can collect on their own and then bring it to us, that we can apply. It's just like an MRI of your back, if you have back pain or something like that. I'm not going to look at the data and be like, well, this is defining you. I'm looking at you as a person,
Right.
using our own skill set combined with some imaging or testing or data collection to make a better overall picture. And I think the more people have an active role in monitoring their own bodies, it makes our lives a lot easier when they come in to talk to us. Like, hey, look, I've got XYZ data. I was feeling okay up until this point, and then this started. You know, we can correlate those things a little bit better, and you know, we're able to treat and help people recover better, with them having much more of an active role in it. I'm not saying, you know, they need to go out and do everything on their own, but I think having that kind of ability to reflect on yourself throughout your training and monitor and write down, okay, I felt better this time and I had done XYZ or that kind of thing, goes a long way.
It does.
Absolutely. Great.
Cool.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you for watching and listening again
Yeah.
for the 6th time.
Shoot any questions our way.
Patrick Stewart's drinking out of his shoe right now.
Yes, we have Formula One race replaying in the background right now. Comment. Check us out on our website. We just did a little redo.
Yeah, check it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We should talk
we
about
have
that.
to promote that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We some new packages and new
I think it
Lab
better.
kits.
lab
I think
kits,
it better defines
the services.
where our brand is and where it's going for the future. I think this is awesome, and I think a lot more of an idea for all of you to kind of understand where we're at
Yeah.
and where we see things going.
We should probably just do a podcast about those things.
Yeah.
All right, let's do
All right. Thursday.
Thursday.
All right, cool. So the
Thursday
next episode
podcast.
will be all about lab kits.
Yeah.
Comment, like, check us out. I'll put everything on the bottom like I always do. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Later.